worthy cause. So I'm very excited about this lunch on the third day of the Delaware Economic Summit. I want to first thank Delaware Today. Delaware Today jumped on board and they decided to be a lunch sponsor for us. We really appreciate it. The only thing that they threw out as a requirement is that it had to be the lunch that Sam spoke at. With that being said, I have the honor and privilege to introduce Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head. I've read the bios online and I've learned a lot, but I learned more in the first 10 minutes from his arrival about Sam, and I'm excited to hear a lot more. Founder and owner of Dogfish Head, Sam Calagione.
Thank you, Todd, Stephanie, and all the sponsors. Thank you, Rob, and Charlie, for sponsoring the lunch. Knowing the group that we have in front of us, I'm going to kind of focus my talk a little bit more about, as I read the great sort of mission of this event, and the summit description talked a lot about building trust through local relationships. And I'll sort of focus on how we do that at Dogfish, along with some of the financial sort of milestones and challenges that we face that are probably not dissimilar from a lot of other small businesses and folks in this room, and the challenges we all face as sort of Davids in industries dominated by Goliaths. So I want to make sure also that I leave plenty of time for questions. I'm going to be talking 20 minutes and leave these 10 or 12 minutes for questions. So I look forward to getting those from you and continuing the discussion. So I'll give you a really brief overview of our industry and our early years, and then sort of get into a sort of timeline up to today, projects we're working on, things on our horizon. But our industry is literally one of the oldest industries in the world. We do a beer called Calagione, which was found, the remains of it. We work with molecular archaeologists from the University of Pennsylvania, and we vet crockery from ancient dig sites around the world, and then we resurrect these ancient beers based on the molecular residue found in the pores of the crockery. And one of the oldest one that we do is called Calagione, and it was found in the Jiahu province of China, and it had evidence of sake yeast, sake rice, and hawthorn fruit in it. Super significant finding because it's also the oldest site of musical instruments. They found these bones of birds that had been hollowed out with little holes drilled in them that played basically like modern notes of music. And so it's like it was like a party scene. It was the oldest beer, the oldest music instrument found together 10,000 years ago. And that 10,000 year ago time is pretty much exactly man's history when we shifted from hunting and gathering nomads to settling down in villages. Common theory is that we did that to raise crops instead of chasing our food. We said, wait a second, let's just hang out here and build some farms and villages and let's raise our food. The belief is strong that in part that was done to raise the grains that were used to make beer. So beer is really as old as civilization as we know it. I got to do a beer in Egypt where I got to be in the tomb of Tay, and I saw the oldest human rendering of the brewing trade. Hieroglyphs that showed these ancient brewers. And in that era, this one symbol that was on the wall meant both beer and bread. And back then, beer was just liquid sustenance. It was a synonymous term, beer and bread. A big reason is the practice of brewing beer involves boiling or heating up the liquid. And without us knowing why back then, the science of it, when we do that, we pasteurize and sterilize whatever we're drinking. And back in these ancient cultures, there'd be cisterns and sewers kind of running through the open streets of whether it was Cairo or Rome, and they didn't quite connect what bacteria was, but they did see that if they drank things that were boiled and then alcohols and preservative in them, they didn't get sick as they did if they drank the streams of water that ran through their cities. So I'm very proud to be in this ancient tradition and doing our little part to keep it vibrant in today's commercial landscape. And when I was, I'm not a Delaware native. My wife Mariah, who runs Dogfish with me, is, and I'm here because of the love of a good woman. We met in high school up in Western Massachusetts, where I'm from, where I grew up. And my folks had a cabin with Woodstone on an island off of Booth Bay Harbor, and that island looked out at a jut of land called Dogfish Head. Like Hilton Head in the Carolinas, Dogfish Head is a place. But as I graduated from Muhlenberg College up the road in Allentown in '92 as an English major. I moved to New York City, was taking some writing courses at Columbia, and to pay my rent, I worked at a first-generation beer bar on the Upper West Side. And like most college students, I mostly just drank what was the cheapest thing we could. And then when I got up there, I started 1 week, I tried Chimay Red at a Sierra Nevada celebration. I was smitten with good beer and talking to some fellow homebrewers over here. The next week, I went to the one store in Manhattan that sold homebrew equipment and bought a kit. As I was leaving the store, there was a bodega having a sale on overly ripe cherries covered in flies, and I bought those. Threw those into my first batch of homebrew, did a cherry pale ale, and it turned out great. Stuff in front of my roommates and said, "This is what I want to do in my life. I want to be a brewery." My next two batches were horrible. I already kind of committed. And in that era, I guess the internet had started, but I wasn't aware of it. So what I would do is work at this beer bar at night, and then during the day go to the New York City Public Library, do Lexis and Nexis searches, and try to triangulate related industries as I try to find a way to open a little brewery. So I was mostly studying the existing craft brewers, first generation craft brewers. And our industry as craft brewers, our overall industry as brewers is as old as civilization. But the American craft brewing renaissance, I kind of date back to about 34 years ago. Ingerstein Brewery predates that era by a bit, but that was an ailing existing regional brewery that just got revived from a very rich man who owned the Maytag washing machine fortune, Fritz Maytag, and a great luminary in the industry. But I really look at the patriarch of our industry as Ken Grossman, the guy who founded Sierra Nevada Brewery, because he was the first guy that was just a bike repairman and just drilled holes in this used stainless steel that he found in a scrapyard and built the brewery that could fit on two of these stages as a true startup brewer, unlike the founder of Anchor that took something over. So that's only like 33, 34 years ago that Sierra Nevada opened in 1980 in Chico, California. So as I did my research in 92, 93 to open a brewery, I was looking at, a wonderful trailblazing breweries like Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada and what made them special. And I recognized they already had a scale that me as a 24-year-old limited ability to raise funds wouldn't be able to compete with. And I saw that their beers were wonderful, unpasteurized, all-grain, beautiful, flavorful beers, but they were all sort of genuflecting towards European brewing traditions, whether it's Sam Adams referencing German lagers or Sierra Nevada referencing English pale ales. So as I did my research, I focused more on related industries, like local roasteries and coffee companies that were opening up, particularly in the Northwest, or small hearth-break wood-based bread companies, and started considering beer could be viewed in just a greater sort of local or food movement, that it was just really getting its feet in America in that era with folks like Alice Waters on the West Coast and James Beard as an educator out of New York, both of whom were similar message, which is let's stop just worshiping European culinary traditions. America grows beautiful ingredients, let's start coming up with our own traditions. So with that, I wrote a business plan that was all about being the first brewery in America to look at the entire culinary landscape for potential brewing ingredients instead of just the traditional water, yeast, hops, and barley that 99% of the commercial brewing world kind of obeys. And because that is really a relatively modern phenomenon. If you look at 10,000 years of brewing history, only about 600 years ago, the Bavarians made a law called the Reinheitsgebot that said there can only be made with these four things. And they actually kind of won that war. Most commercial beer left all the diversity of ingredients and honey and fruits and herbs and spices, ancient braggots and saisons and stuff that had spices in them, and they all went to one spice, a hop. That's a very ancient commercial beer. So in the mid-90s, the financial side started, the financial story, 24, 25, trying to open a brewery. Only experience I've had in jobs is manual labor, summer jobs, and waiting tables. So I write the business plan. My dad's a tooth doctor from Western Mass. He puts in $25,000. My orthodontist, his friend, puts in $35,000. And the guy that stone walls for us in the summer job put in $50,000. So I took that 110, and I was able to convince a bank to give me a matching loan if my dad collateralized his office. Up in Massachusetts. So I started Dogfish in '95 with $220,000. And so for some context, in that era, there existed sort of prefabricated brewing systems, commercial brewing systems, small scale, unlike when Chico Sierra was started, where he was the first guy. By the time I started in the mid-90s, there was a burgeoning industry of these cottage, small brewing producing companies. So our friends at Iron Hill, for example, who opened a year or two after us, their system in Newark was about a $200,000 system. So by the time I've renovated the space in downtown Rehoboth, there was an ailing site that had been a succession of one-year restaurants that didn't make it. Real estate was a great prime location, but pretty beat up, so we had to put a lot of money in. By the time I got that fixed up, I had about $20,000 of the $220,000 I raised left, leaving not enough, as most entrepreneurs don't, for working capital, but I had about $20,000 to spend in the brewery. So we basically self-fabricated a home brewing system that could only make 12 gallons of beer at a time and put that in the restaurant. I had a mattress in the cellar, and I would brew 5 or 6 days a week, 2 or 3 times a day, and then you at night you're on the floor and talk to the customers about what made our beer special and what wine like and their complexity and their alcohol content and the food compatibility. And the whole idea was to have an open kitchen so that customers, beer lovers, could see that we were using a culinary kitchen to feed both the people in the restaurant and the tanks in the brewery. To make that overlap association clear that beer is liquid food. And then it also allowed us to really hone our marketing message because we talked to every single person that bought our beer pint by pint for the first full year. It was always my dream to sell our beer coast to coast. I never frankly dreamed we'd get as big as we are today, but it was always my dream to do that. But I knew I had a better chance of making it through those hard startup years if I had the revenue stream of a restaurant and the food side of the business and the brewery and kept it all under one roof, because the profit structure is such that you're not sharing the end retail profits with a distributor and a retailer if you sell it right under your own roof, plus with the profits on the food side of the businesses as well. So I don't regret how small we started. We were the smallest brewery in the country in that era. In 1995, there was 600 breweries in America, and we were the smallest brewery in America, along with being the first brewery in the state. Flash forward to today, there's over 2,800 breweries in America. And in that era when I opened, there was one brewery opening, one commercial brewery opening every week. And you flash forward to today, there's 2,800 breweries in America, 1.3 commercial breweries opening in America every day. So it's become one of the most competitive, vibrant, insanely fast-moving markets or industries in the country. Now, that's created some wonderful opportunities with us that it's no longer this niche industry, but we recognize in mainstream, but obviously some headwinds in terms of finding shelf space, tap space for all these breweries. So shifting towards more the message of the summit of the importance of relationships and trust as you grow your companies. I knew starting as the smallest commercial brewery in the country that I couldn't compete with Miller Coors Bud or even Sierra Nevada New Belgium. So trying to find a tiny niche that we could sort of own has always been at the heart of our brand's philosophy. So chatting with friends at our table when we started on where we get our inspiration, it's frankly never from the modern brewing commercial world. Our feeling is that if something's already being done, there's really no point in our doing it. And we adopted this Emerson quote as our mission statement when I wrote the business plan, which is, "Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. He who would gather moral palms must not be hindered by the name witness, but must explore it and be goodness for himself," which doesn't fit in a six-pack. So we shortened it to off-center nails for off-center people, which basically means the same thing, which is we know we're going to be a niche company. We're not pretending we're going to be a global juggernaut, but that we're going to go on this fun exploration, and if it's a worthy exploration, a small niche of people will go on that journey with us and help us grow that niche. So shifting to that relationship component, when you're a tiny company in a big industry, you realize that there's a lot more positive karma that comes with focusing on opportunities to collaborate instead of the negative energy that comes with a more traditional business competition approach. And especially a brewery like ours, you flash forward to today, there's 2,800 breweries in America. Dogfish is about the 12th biggest craft brewery in the country, we produce about 7,000 cases of beer every day and send them coast to coast. But you look at it in the context of market share, we still only have 1/3 of 1% market share in America at Dogfish Head does. So what's that, 3 out of 100 years, or 3 out of 1,000? Dogfish Head drunk somewhere in America. For further context, the 2 biggest American-owned breweries aren't the ones that sponsor the Made in America Festival in Philadelphia, or the ones that have their name festooned on NASCAR. It's actually Yuengling and Sam Adams, the Boston beer, each of which enjoy 1% market share in America. As much as you think Sam Adams and Yuengling is prolific and everywhere, they each have 1% market share. So the 2 biggest global conglomerates, SAP Miller owns about 30% market share, and Anheuser-Busch InBev owns over 50% market share when you count their acquisition of Corona and the Modelo brands. And so it's a very uneven playing field. So the 2,800 craft breweries in America recognize that a rising tide floats all ships. Similar to something like this, getting technically competitors together to just talk about how to network and improve what we do is really critical in our industry. For example, when we outgrow equipment, we sell it cheaper than used value to our friends at Evolution down the road from us because we want to see them grow. Or our friends at Burley Oak in Burley, Maryland, we're having a real problem with their yeast strain, and we invite them into our 8-person, multi-million-dollar quality control lab, let them use our equipment to figure out what's wrong with their yeast, because we want the reputation of Delmarva beer to be all about quality. So things that I get fired for if I ran a public company are opportunities that we as tiny niche businesses have to help each other to grow. And we extend that beyond our industry with partners that we at Dogfish believe are a great fit for our brand. And some of my best learning opportunities as the president of my company come through those relationships. So our brewery is very much collaboration happy, not just with the breweries we collaborate on physical beers with. We've done beers with our friends up the road at Victory Brewery in Stone. We do a beer called Saison de Buff with them. We're all music fans, and we do a beer made with parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme called Saison de Buff with Stone and Victory. We do a beer every other year with Sierra Nevada. We're the first brewery in the country to do a collaboration with the patriarch of our movement, and they're real mentors to us because Sierra Nevada's founders' children are starting to work and run that company as a family company, and myself and the founder on the board of our association, Brewers Association, together. And it's my dream. I run Dogfish with my wife as a family company. We have a 14-year-old boy and an 11-year-old daughter, and it'd be my dream to keep Dogfish Head private so that my children have the opportunity to run it and not burden them with the necessity of running, but at least keep it family-owned until they're old enough to decide if they want to run it is really my goal. And that has its own sort of financial challenges because when you get to the scale we are at now, ours is a very bricks and mortar intensive business, which takes a lot of CapEx investment. And we made a choice a few years ago when demand was so far in front of supply to actually pull out of some geographic markets instead of keep investing at the rate we were, because we didn't want to have to go public, do an IPO, sell a fraction of our company to venture capitalists. We wanted to keep it a family-owned Delaware-based company, and it was a really hard decision because the smart thing to do would have been contract dark capacity at some big brewery, let them make some of our beer for us, or do the public offering, or we got offers from the big breweries to sell out. Smart thing financially, if all this was about was a return on monetary investment, we would have made probably some different choices. But we love being a Delaware-based company. We love employing almost 200 people in Delaware and the investments that we make in our community. So some of those collaborations that we get to do are all are national in scale. If it's a partner that we believe enhances our brand, our company almost does no traditional media. We only really advertising dollars in print that we do are locally with a few publications that we really believe in, and that's more for our pub than for our beer because it's a local pub. Other than that, we mostly do events or social media. So last week I had a wedding for an actor on Brooklyn Nine-Nine in Central California, and then I went down and met with a guy who's designing bags in LA, co-designing bags in LA for our Inn hotel local in Lewis, and then I went to a beer event in San Antonio, Texas, and then we ran our Oscar and Film Festival out of Austin, Texas. So I hit those 4 cities in the last week, but talked to thousands of Dogfish lovers who sponsored the movie Hot Rod Park in Austin, raised money for the Texas Brewers Guild, invited the actors down from Hot Rod to Top. But got to talk to all the beer lovers who left psyched about Dogfish, psyched that Dogfish was actually raising money for Texas's Brewers Guild, so the Texas Brewers consider us a friend and don't try and knock us off of tap. And then came back here to do events like this is a big part about how we market. So we don't do much traditional advertising, it's all events or mostly social media, and my wife's awesome at that. If you get a Facebook or Twitter thing in the middle of the night, it's my wife up on her computer, she does that really well. We have the 4th largest online presence of any of the 10,000 breweries in the world. Number 1 is Heineken. Our online footprint is bigger than Bud or Coors, so that's something that we really believe in the internet being this great leveler in brand profile, regardless of the size of your company. The projects that we do collaboratively allow us to expand that dialogue, that human scale dialogue, not just with beer lovers, but when we do something with a beer with the Grateful Dead, and the millions of deadheads throughout the world are asked to submit ideas for ingredients to go in that beer, then they become part of our network as well. More recently, we launched a line of packaged foods and chose our partners really deliberately, partnered with Purdue as the largest employer and person involved with land on Delmarva, at least land-wise, acreage-wise, they touch the most acres. And they have a whole all-natural subsidiary called Coleman Hans that sort of passes the Whole Foods litmus test on how all-natural it is. And so we partnered with their group, and we infused a series of bratwurst with our different beers that we sell throughout America as an opportunity to get our beer set next to the meat aisle where other breweries won't get their beer set because they don't do bratwurst. We partner with the biggest family-owned clam processing company in America, which is Sea-Watch Clams out of Guilford, Delaware. We do a clam chowder with them infused with beer, inspired by a recipe in Moby Dick. And we work with Brooklyn Brine, a artisanal pickling company in Brooklyn, where we send up containers of our beer that's been salt treated to go into the brine, and we send hop oil. And then you think of the networks that these little companies, some big or they don't have, and now we're kind of getting our brand in peanut butter and their brand in chocolate, and it's exponential, the effect of spreading the word of our company in these related industries. So it's a pain in the ass operationally, because oftentimes we'd be just better off making a lot more 90-minute, just focusing our resources, our limited resources and people on that. But it's a testament to the strengths of the people that I've been able to attract to come on this journey at Dogfish with me. I think of, basically I focus mostly on what we're going to do next, whether it's we're about to open an inn, a beer-themed inn in Lewis, equidistance from our local brewery and our pub in Rehoboth. I'm spending a lot of time on that. I'm spending a lot of time on clothing collaboration we're about to announce in a month, along with another band that we're doing a beer with. And while I'm doing all this, Mariah's marketing all the events that are happening right now. Nick Benz, our chief operating officer, is overseeing our $51 million expansion that we're almost through. Tim Hahn, our brewmaster, is making sure that 7,000 cases of beer get out the door today. So we have 200 people, and I guess one of the great lessons I've learned to grow Dogfish was having the humility to realize as an entrepreneur you wear a lot of different hats. You have to because you're small. And knowing which hats fit you well and knowing which ones are ill-fitting, and then finding people whose strengths complement yours and can wear that hat that didn't fit you well a lot better. Whether it's I suck at HR, I'm not great at Excel spreadsheets, there's so many things I'm not good at, I don't have time to talk about. But what I've been pretty good at is attracting people who have those strengths to come on this journey with us. And for us, a big part of that is we pay extremely well at the highest end of our industry, and we have a pretty entrepreneurial bonus program where the better the company does, the better everyone in our company individually financially does, and that's been a great unifier for us. So I'm not sure I'm doing time-wise, maybe 2 or 3 minutes still talking, and then we open up to questions. Plenty of time?
Stay here all day.
Oh, jeez. That's one long sentence I just said. So, like, what's on the horizon? I guess to talk about that a little bit. You know, we made a choice to keep our brewery and our bricks and mortar in Delaware at a moment when many breweries across the country are building secondary facilities on their opposite coast, Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, Dales. And for us, one of the reasons we're not is because so much of what grows in America grows west and moves east. So the freight cost of sending beer east to west is cheaper than our friends that grow on the west coast because they're fighting so much of what grows in America as competition getting on those trucks. So when we run the financial models, we have to get to twice our current size before it'd be practical for us to consider building a facility on the west coast. And we also made a decision to focus on strong growth instead of fast growth. And for us, what that meant is, again, economically, when we got to the scale we used to grow 30, 40, 60% a year at a certain base. That became really, really painful in dollars and in insanity of coworkers to grow at those rates. I know how lucky I am to say we make a choice to slow down our growth, but it was at risk of pacing our borrowing capability. We try very hard to, when we grow our company CapEx-wise, to have from every dollar about 50 cents coming from our bank relationship, which is Citizens Bank's our bank partner, and 50 cents coming from our own cash flow. And we try not to take on any expansion of our brewery that would bring that ratio out of whack. We let that kind of be our filter on, are we ready for this project when we're making those financial decisions. And so what we said is, let's slow down our top line growth and focus on growing without discounting and innovating on the higher end of our portfolio to help us be more profitable and not rely on top end revenue growth for the financial strength of our company, but bottom line profitability. The challenges that come with that is we were running too lean for too long, and we had the smallest sales force of any top 50 brewery, and we were the 12th biggest. So even 13 through 50 had bigger sales forces nationally than we. We were relying on our strength to create consumer demand so that they would pull our beer through distribution and retail, whereas the traditional model is a big brewery will have giant sales forces to push the beer from retail, to the distributors and push the beer at retail. And because we've been pretty innovative on creating brand recognition for our brewery disproportionate to the scale of our brewery, we were able to keep demand so far in front of supply, whether it's writing a book or doing the Beer Wars movie or a TV series on Discovery. Those investments were more about my personal time than our company-wide resources, but they allowed us to have a brand profile that was sort of disproportionate, certainly to our sales force and also to our company. Now, frankly, the big breweries are on that. The big breweries helped to put them to our show on Discovery. They're now coming up with fake craft beers, not just Blue Ribbon and Shot Cloud. They bought 100% of Goose Island in Chicago. They just bought 100% of Blue Point Brewery in New York. And they're going out and using those beers as sort of pawns in their game, charging unsustainably low prices, $59 for a keg, to knock off true Victory, Iron Hill, Dogfish type of beers from tap by saying, oh, we got a local beer for you, it's from Chicago. We're not going to tell you it's brewed in this giant plant in Newark, New Jersey. We're just going to say it's a local Chicago beer. So, you know, we, again, as an industry, have a need to share that message with consumers who we think deserve to know who makes their beers and want to support locally owned companies where the money stays in your community. And in our case, our biggest nonprofit beneficiaries, we donated over $240,000 to the Nature Conservancy thus far, and our second biggest would probably be Habitat for Humanity. We shut down our company every year for a full day, and we go out and build houses together. And since we have so many engineers and maintenance people, we have really awesome tools and builders at our company. And we can build like 3 houses in one day for Nature Conservancy, and then we each give our salary from that day. I think is some money per coworker in money donations to them as well. But we do things like we underwrote the kayak launch in downtown Lewis. We're about to make a very substantial gift to the Milton Historic Society. So when we do, when you see our beer on the shelves, you know, part of why it costs what it does compared to, say, even Sierra Nevada or Magic Hat or more traditionally priced craft beers is the unique ingredients, and hopefully we did a good enough job telling the story around those ingredients to help rationalize the premium. But another fraction of that is our commitment to staying local and keeping our money in our community. When we do make a profit, we invest in our community. It doesn't go overseas to Belgium or South American banks as it does when you buy Bud Miller or Coors. So lastly, things on our horizon, we do a series of brew pubs with Mario Vitale and Joe Bastianich called Birreria within the Italy stores. We have those in New York City, Chicago, Bari, Italy, and Rome. And it's a way that our logos over these local breweries in these four major cities, and it gives us a local presence in those markets. We have 3 Dogfish Head ale houses in the DC market. It's a licensing agreement, so I don't have operational management control or resources there, but again, it gives us a very local presence in a major metro market right near us. So for now, we don't have plans other than additional Birreria locations of doing more Dogfish Head ale houses. We did just buy the property next to us in Rehoboth, and because we're focused on opening this inn on Lewis Harbor this summer, we're just leaving that dark, and we'll figure out what to do with it next year. But that's a 2014 or 2015 project, as is the expansion of our distillery. We were the first East Coast brewery to open a distillery over a decade ago, and much like the craft brewing industry is really growing quickly, so is craft distilling. We've got a really nice niche in that and an interest in growing that part of our businesses as well. You guys didn't eat, you're waiting for me to eat. I feel bad. Go ahead, you guys eat. I'm sorry, I said that when I noticed everyone else in Missouri, you have to eat meals all the time. Other than that, I don't know that I have anything more to share. I think I'm still okay time-wise to take the questions that I was going to take. And you know, I hope you come and visit us. We have over 1,000 people a week touring our Milton Brewery. Really proud to show that off and show off our co-workers. We're really proud to open this inn as a brand home for Dogfish. We get over half the people that visit that come from out of state, over half of those that came to Delaware to see Dogfish. But we opened this inn intentionally without trying to take out a liquor license in it, because we want people to land there, but go to all the other local restaurants that serve our beer, not just our own. That inn should open in June. We're excited for that as well. So that's it. Thank you for your patience, and I'll take whatever questions you guys have.
You have very unique flavors. I'm just curious on how you got started with your creative process, because being a writer, it's just like, you know, it's like you're working with a bunch of writers, and at the end of it, you have an episode. You're like a TV writer or something like that. So how did you get into these unique flavors?
Yeah. Again, trying to looking instead of our own industry at industries that I felt there were great parallels with. So at our house, we don't subscribe to any beer magazines, but there's probably 3 or 4 food magazines, a few art magazines, a few music magazines, a few wine magazines that come into our house every month. And that's where I usually take on the road when I travel and try to find niches that haven't been explored yet in commercial beer that might have reference points in these other industries. Or then, frankly, I spend a lot of time looking backwards for inspiration instead of into the future. And particularly as I work with historians or molecular archaeologists to look at what cultures long ago were putting into their beers. We have a wonderful resource in the DuPont Library, I forget the name of it, but it's a Hackney Museum, an amazing resource. And regardless of what industry you are, it's one of the world's 2 most foremost business libraries, that one in Harvard in the world. And they did an amazing job for generation curating the world's most important in every industry brewing books. And I've gone there and found old 200-year-old brewing recipe books, and I've done a whole series of R&D batches in our pub based on what I've found in the old books in that museum. So I think a lot of times today, in such a high-tech and frenetic business world, that we're always too focused on, oh, what's next, instead of, wait a second, maybe if I look backwards, there's something that hasn't been revive that I can use in my industry and bring back to life, So we look as backwards for inspiration as often as we do in our own imaginations for inspiration, I would say.
Yeah, at one point there was a rumor floating around of Dogfish Head Ale House opening in Wilmington. Is that the perceived?
We did. We looked hard up here. Like, my hat's off to the Puccinis and everybody who's done such a great job to help the Renaissance of Wilmington. I know there's still a ways to go, but I took a nice walk around the whole waterfront here. It was great to see so many people down here. We frankly made the decision 2 years ago that we were going to open a hotel instead of open something in Wilmington at this point in our journey. So I'd never say never, but at the time being, there is no plans that we have to further explore opportunities in Wilmington. But we love seeing our friends at Iron Hill do a great job here. All the other restaurants, it's great to see Market Street thriving. I know the waterfront's thriving, but I'm really hopeful that downtown Milton, because its challenges, can keep going in the right direction. I'm renting a bus and bought a bunch of tickets to the Morrissey concert and the Deltron 3030 concert coming up here. I'm going to bring a bunch of my coworkers to spend a bunch of money in the Wilmington economy and see a few concerts. And that's what it's going to take, is all of us spending some nights in downtown Wilmington to show people that it's a great place to be, not just during the day, but the night. But short answer is no plans on our horizon, but we love the city of Wilmington.
As I began to travel, be a professional, I guess, I'm seeing Dogfish Head in Chicago, Boston, Florida. We have a reporter that works for us, 10 years ago, he said, if Honda hates an elephant, in Newark. He said you were banging at the door, we want to sell beer here, we want to sell beer here.
Yeah.
Now you're everywhere. How do you find new markets to sell your beer? Because I'm sure they're just coming to you.
Yeah, well, it's a weird dichotomy because, yes, the distributors and the retailers are calling us up in the states or cities that we're not in and saying, we really want your beer. That's happening at the same moment, though. Competitively, all the big breweries are foisting these super cheap fake craft beer kegs and 6-packs on distributors and retailers to say don't serve Dogfish. And the more legitimate, fair competition of the 1.3 small breweries opening up in every city. And that's mostly where we got caught behind in allocating resources to the right place in the last 2 years, is we were like, oh, our demand is so far in front of supply, we've got such a great human scale dialogue with the consumer, we're okay regardless of competitive pressure. But what we found in cities like Austin and LA and Chicago and Portland, Oregon, is the 1.3 breweries that are opening in those cities, we're going in and saying, why do you have that beer from Delaware on tap? I eat here every Monday night with my children over there. Why are you supporting that brewery from the other side of the country when I'm making beer 4 blocks from you? And that's a fair reality. Our argument would be there should be room for prioritizing a bunch of small breweries. Economic Darwinism should prevail, and the best of those small breweries should deserve to be on tap, whether or not they're from down the road or across the country. Our investment in quality control is second to no brewery in the world, as is our differentiation in unique recipes. But we're learning that isn't enough. We have to make more investments in salespeople so that we have a local person that lives in that market and say, Dogfish is local because I live in Chicago as the Midwest sales manager of wherever the city is. So we're still lucky that we're only in 30 states and we can open another 20 for growth. We're starting to sell St. Louis beer in the UK in partnership with the UK's biggest family-owned brewery called Wells & Young, Maker of Young Stout. We sell a little beer in Italy because of that Mario Vitale beer relationship. So we still have a lot of geographic area to open for growth, but we're focused more on organic growth and just trying to do better in the states we're in. I called the sales manager uniting our distributor in Delaware on my way up here this morning, saying, hey, April trends are a little bit down from March, what's happening with that? And he was, well, this distributor picked up this many new brands and launched these many fake craft beers in Delaware, and that's the reality of it. So just gotta stay focused on our business. Next question over here.
How do you, with all of the big breweries coming out with fake craft beers and the craft beer scene developing, so there's a lot of people drinking craft beer that don't know anything about craft beer, how do you get that message across of who you guys are versus who they are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we don't have the luxury of having a TV show like we did, because that was great for demystifying what made our beer special. I again, I'll take my hat off to Mariah and our small marketing team. We do these short videos called quick sip clips that you go to our website to use. Mostly entrepreneurs watch them about describing every single one of our beers and what makes it special. But it's also used by retailers and distributors, sales forces. Beer goes on tap in the bar, they know they can just go on dogfish.com and have their bar staff watch for 1 minute the beer that just went on tap. The whole story would be telling you while I'm drinking it in our brewery. So that's a really effective tool. And then all our print materials, we were the first brewery in the country to have a focus on culinary pairings with every one of our beers. So if our sales book, when you open it up, it makes a cheese reference on how to prepare that beer, a food reference, and even a wine as an alternative. If you like this wine, you'll like this beer from our company. Education is critical.
Well, when you refer to the Discovery Channel show, now there's this rumor in the beer community that we can put pressure on Discovery to have that show not continue. Is there any?
That's absolutely false. It was Miller Coors. I don't want to go into it too much, but the reason that show was canceled is an awesome example of why we should support small family-owned breweries, not just the Dogfish Head. I learned an awesome lesson on the relationship between the editorial side and the advertising side of major networks. That's what I learned. And you know, we got approached to do some other shows, and short answer is, do you guys take advertising money from the global two big breweries? And if they say yes, we say we're not interested. We just did a fun show called Brew Dogs, which was on Esquire Network, a small network. This shows you how great Delaware is. We called up the folks that run Dover racetrack and said, we want to brew the fastest great beer. We isolate yeast lab. In our yeast lab, we microscopic level isolate the yeast strains that are the most robust and can survive in alcohol-rich environments and make strong beers. But we also have isolated strains that just work really fast. And so we came up with the idea of brewing the fastest beer in the world that would be awesome tasting from grain to glass in 9 days. And we decided, let's do it on Dover racetrack. And we convinced them somehow with insurance to open the racetrack to us. We took this giant 350 pickup truck, turbo diesel flatbed. We fixed this electric-fired brewing system to it, and 90 miles going around Dover to speed track, we brewed this beer that was ready 9 days later for this TV show. So we're still doing projects like that, but we ourselves would be challenging us to do it unless we found a network that promised us they wouldn't do big brewery advertising on their show.
Besides your very unique flavors, the very unique label names, did that start from very long? Is that your concept?
Yeah, back in the day when we couldn't afford outside artists, I did all the design myself, and I found it in a High Valley flea market, a 19th century stamp set of letters, and I scanned and cut and paste that into that proprietary Doggy font that we use. It kind of looks like a ransom note, kind of. And then, of the beer I'm seeing, I hand painted the Namaste label. I did our Noble Rot label. I did design a 60-minute, 90-minute race on Idiot Brown. But as we've gotten bigger and more financially stable, we reach out to the artists in the industries that we love, and for certain projects, invite them to do it. So if you have the Aprop label, Jerome is the artist that did that label. He does a lot of the artwork for the band Radiohead, The Roots, and a bunch of other different bands. So again, by doing our seasonal artist program, we get the social media networking that this very internationally known rock and roll artist has, and he announces he's doing this year's seasonal Dogfish art. It expands our community in a great way, but it's fun. I love that part of the job. I love the design packaging as much as I love the rest of the stuff. And you'll tell me when I'm going to jump off. Two more questions.
In short, I've seen more beers claim to be organic. What makes a beer organic, and how does that change your process?
What makes a beer organic? So to call a beer organic, you have to have a third party certify all of your ingredients. And every year at our brew pub in Rehoboth, where we do all of our R&D, we don't do focus groups or outside consultants. We use our brew pub in Rehoboth as our proving ground for any new recipes. So if you come to Rehoboth, there's always 2 or 3 at least brew pub exclusives, and they're beers that we might have just made for fun, knowing that we were going to just make them once, or they might be a beer that has a different name that we're actually testing to see if we should do national distribution on it. And every year, we at least do one batch with them. We try and find the best organic ingredients to do it, because that industry is evolving and improving. But frankly, organic hops and organic barley, to our palates, is not up to what our expectations are for the taste and aroma profile of the beer. We still take our hat off to anybody that uses those, but we have not found a base barley for our scale that's as good as our barley. It's still all natural, it just can't be clean organic. But there are good organic beers, gluten-free is another huge category. We do a gluten-free beer called Tweezy. That we originally started doing with Pfeiffer Orchards, strawberries, but the seasonality and scale doesn't go to outside our state for those. We still do a beer called Positive Contact that's made with all Delaware apples, Fuji apples from Smith Farms. One more question, and then I gotta jump off the question.
It's a Friday night, you're headed to a buddy's house, pull into the liquor store, you buy a 6-pack of what?
Right. That's not really a hypothetical question. It's every Friday night. I'm a beer geek. I'm not a beer snob. I don't only drink my own beer. Usually I'll say the brands that I probably have in my house with the most frequency are Saison de Pont from Belgium, some Chimay from Belgium, Sierra Nevada, Victory Prima Pils is a favorite. Allagash White is nice. So those are go-tos, but I did a talk at the National Beer Wholesalers Conference in Washington, D.C. 2 days ago, and it was me, the president of HUSA, which is Heineken USA, Miller Coors president, and they brought a bucket of iced beers around, and there was 60 Minute in there, a Heineken in there, a Bud Light in there, and I looked at it all, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And I pulled out the Heineken, and I cracked open the Heineken, but before I drank it, I said, I'm going to have the Heineken because I already have 60 Minute in my coffee cup. Good morning, I don't know what that says about my habit of speaking after liquid courage. But you guys have been a wonderful, wonderful crowd to spend lunch with. I congratulate you on your own business endeavors, and I love being a business person in this state. We're lucky to have Jack Markell and Alan and the great leaders that we have that care about our economy to the degree that they do. So I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Real quick, we've had a handful of speakers, probably about 20 speakers so far. We have another round this afternoon and again tomorrow. And I really appreciate the time that Sam put in to really make his talk relevant. There are a number of entrepreneurs in the room. You can kind of take away something. I'm probably going to watch the video myself back just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But it all comes back to Delaware. The whole point of this summit was financial literacy for Delaware, by Delaware. And it doesn't get more Delaware than Sam, so I appreciate it. Thank you.